Okay, so as I said, we're going to begin by just settling in, getting mind and body in the same place. And Sanda Sankarapshidisen Pamakarajabani Shuna, Susana Notatangatsaso, Katelamanam Naso Wanda, Amichiki, Kipodane, to some Sagaki, One, Johnson Chicken, Suntisip. So in a measure, Praso Wanda. All right, so we want to begin with our bodhicitta motivation. Bodhicitta, literal translation, is awakened mind heart, and the meaning is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So it begins with compassion. And when we look around us in the world, we can see that there's so much suffering, and compassion should normally arise when seeing that. So bodhicitta begins with compassion, but it's not the same as compassion. Because it has an aspect of wisdom to it that mere compassion or ordinary compassion does not have, right? So, and that wisdom is the knowledge that all of this suffering has a cause, which is this fundamental ignorance of the nature of reality itself, the nature of the self, of one's own self. So it is only by removing that particular obstacle that we can truly be free of suffering, once and forever, as Tugru Rinpoche likes to say. So please have that, if you can, as your motivation for the time we're going to spend together this morning, so that the time we spend together benefits not only ourselves, but all beings as well. Okay, so what I want to do for the next 4 weeks is talk about the 4 mind changes, one thought per, or sometimes it's called the 4 thoughts. So this would be 1 thought per week. Okay, so the 4 mind changes are precious human life, impermanence and death, cause and effect or karma, and the suffering of samsara. So they're called the 4 mind changes, or they're called the 4 thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma. So every day, if someone is doing the preliminary practices, otherwise known as the Nundro, every day we will contemplate these 4 things. Okay, and they turn the mind towards the Dharma. That means that, we don't always want to practice, right? We don't always want to even think about the Dharma. It's very easy to just we just fall back into our old habits, and, we don't want to make the effort and so forth. So contemplating these 4 things is a method for helping us to be inspired to practice. Okay. So as I said, today we're going to talk about precious human life. So what is precious human life? So there's ordinary human life. Okay, that's any human, right? Which we're not saying that like all life is precious in Buddhism, okay, and human life is included in that. But precious human life, what distinguishes that from ordinary human life, is that if one has a precious human life, they have all the conditions necessary in order to practice the Dharma, in order to progress on the path. Okay, so this is actually quite a big topic, right? But we can go step by step, and then for anyone who might be interested, we have classes and things like that, and you can develop further these ideas. Okay, so there's something called samsara. It's a Sanskrit word, samsara. Tibetan is called korwa, which kind of means wheel. Um, but it's the translation of that is cyclic existence. So the idea there is that there are six realms, which we're not going to go into details at this point for lack of time, but there are six different realms of being, six different ex- general experiences that one's consciousness has. Okay. So the realms that we are familiar with are the human realm and the animal realm. Those are two of the six. Okay. Um, and then there's other realms that we cannot see. Uh, but each of those has a particular set of circumstances, a particular set of experiences. Okay. Um, and within each of those realms, there's also a spectrum of experience. So if we just look at the human realm, right, there's a very wide spectrum of experience, right? We have people who suffer a great deal. We have people who suffer less. We have people who, just their entire life is just kind of torturous, and other people whose lives are much easier. We have, you know, wildly variant lifespans. Some children die before even leaving the womb. Some people live to be 120 years old, and everything in between. So in each of the realms, there's a wide spectrum. I mean, and if you look at the animal realm, you can see that that's also true, right? Even if you look at one type of animal in the animal realm, like dogs, right? Some dogs have it very, very easy, and they're very well cared for. Some dogs are horrifically abused, right? So wide experience. But in general, there are these six realms, okay? Which, as I said, we don't really have time to go into in great detail this morning. But the idea is that we cycle through these six realms on the basis of our karma, okay? Which is the law of cause and effect, which we'll talk about in 2 weeks, because next week is impermanence. Um, so right now in this life, we're born a human being. Next life, we might be reborn, hopefully not, but next life, we might be reborn as an animal. Following life, we could be reborn as what's called a hungry ghost. Following life, we could be reborn in what's called the God realm, right? All of these different experiences. And it's not a graduated system where, we start low and then we learn something, and then the next life it's better, and then up and up and up like that. This is kind of how some people want to understand this, but it's not how Buddhism understands this. Um, the way they describe it is like a bee in a jar, right? If you put a bee in a jar, it doesn't just climb up, up, up. It's gonna just fly all over like that. So that's kind of how we traverse through the six realms, because it depends on what we do, what we think, what we say, which creates the karma for us to have a certain mental experience, really, a certain perception of reality. Okay. Um, so coming back to like precious human life, all right. Um, we think about, first of all, just ordinary human life, just any human life is already difficult to get. If you just think, it seems like there's so many people, there's too many people even, right? Which, is not the point. But in fact, there aren't that many people in comparison to other forms of life. So, for example, there's more birds than human beings, and there's more insects than birds, right? So even if we just consider the human realm and the animal realm, already humans, it's harder to be reborn a human than to be reborn an animal, a bird, an insect, or some other kind of animal. And that's not even considering the other realms. Okay. So sometimes when people want to talk about rebirth, and they want to they have a misunderstanding. They think like, well, if we have past lives and future lives, then um, how can the human population increase, right? They're seeing it as a kind of closed system, like you're born a human now and you're always like reborn a human, but it's not like that. You can be an animal and then a human, like I was saying, a human and then a hungry ghost, and then jealous god or whatever. Okay. So it's pooling from an infinite, almost infinite number of conscious experience, or infinite number of what I want to say, like beings, just an infinite number of various beings. Okay. So precious human life is called a precious human life, as I said earlier, because of the ability, if we have all these conditions together, then we have the capacity to practice the Dharma, right? And the usual list is called the 8 freedoms and the 10 advantages. So freedoms are um, freedoms from unfavorable circumstances, right? Like being born in other realms or when a Buddha has not come. So let's talk about that for a second. So animals, no matter how intelligent they are, uh, can't practice the Dharma. Okay. They can be exposed to the Dharma. We can help them in that way. Um, but they don't have the intellectual capacity to understand. They don't have really that. They just don't have the intellectual capacity to understand and to practice. All right. They can be really helpful, right? There's tons of stories like that of you have therapy horses and therapy dogs, and you have, dolphins who guide ships away from being coral reefs, and stuff like that. Okay. So they can act in what we might term virtuous ways, but uh um but they can't practice. And so um to we're free at this point from having been born an animal or in some other realm where it's so difficult or even impossible to be able to practice. Okay. We are uh, uh, free of being born in a time when a Buddha has not come. So from the Buddhist perspective, the concept of time and cosmology is very, very vast. Okay, talking eons upon eons. So there are periods where, because the beings do not have the merit for it, a Buddha doesn't even appear. Okay, then there are other periods where a Buddha might appear because there's a little bit of merit. So the Buddha might appear but not be able to teach. So we are born in a time where not only has the Buddha appeared, but was able to teach, and that there's a whole list. The teachings still survive. And there are teachers who, like the lamas, who have realized the teachings and who are still able to teach. Um, and then there's the 10 advantages, where these are 5 that come from the outside, so-called outside, and then 5 that come from the inside. So like personal things. So personal things might be like we have actual interest in the Dharma. Okay. So we can see Dharma books. We can, see the Dalai Lama on YouTube or whatever. We can have a friend who's Buddhist. We can walk right by a teaching where, a great master is teaching and just not be interested at all. It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to me, when I see that. I remember going to see, there's this Lama called Chogyam Rinpoche who teaches, his main seat is in uh, Bodhanath in Nepal, just outside of Kathmandu. And he was in Antioch College, maybe in Ohio. And I went down to see him, and his back was to this like glass wall, and there were just people walking by, and he's such a great master. He's so wonderful. And I was just sitting there. I wanted to just go out and yell at all the people, like, come inside here. You don't know what you're missing. But if they're not interested, they're not interested. Then we have the what they usually use the term leisure, like we have enough leisure. So what that means is like, um, we have enough time to practice. We have enough time to study, right? Which is not always the case, right? If when I hear that, I always think of like these single moms, with several kids who have to work two jobs and take care of the kids. Like, how is she going to practice? How is she going to find the time to even do that, right? Um, so it's things like that, right? So we have a precious human life. Um, um, right. So, and then on top of those 18, there are an extra set that have to do with more sort of like there's certain things that don't change, right? And there's certain things in this list of sort of what makes a precious human life. There are certain things that don't change, like a Buddha has come and the teachings have survived, and those things don't change. But our interest in the Dharma can change. We can get to a point where we're just like we're fed up or we're not interested anymore for whatever reason, right? Then we don't have a precious human life anymore when we lose our interest. Yeah. Um, um, then it's just like we can just get to a point of being lazy, you know, or what they term like merely pretending to practice. So this is always a good so it's a good one that we should keep an eye on, because we can feel like very, sincere about practicing, but not really be doing it. Or we can practice like Jigme Khensen Rinpoche said recently, like practicing like you're paying taxes. So it's sort of like a duty and in a very dry way without any sort of inspiration, which, it has to be like that sometimes, I'm sorry to say. We're just not always going to be on fire for it, you know? Um, uh, but things like, not caring anymore about the Dharma or, just not putting in effort anymore, or there's other things like just letting our emotions completely take over, all of those things. If we have to pay attention to those things so that we can, in a sense, maintain our precious human life. Okay. Um, so um, we have to, like, how does this contemplation of precious human life then turn our mind towards the Dharma, sort of make us want to practice, right? Um, we have to know what we have. All four of these thoughts are connected: precious human life, impermanence, cognitive effects, suffering of samsara, beginning with precious human life. But precious human life is impermanent. We don't know when we're going to die, and we don't know what's coming down the road. If you want to connect all four of these, it's recognizing what we have, recognizing that we have this precious human life that is so hard to get. It's so difficult. We have to really understand that, or try our best to understand that, how difficult it is to obtain a precious human life. Okay. I talked about the numbers, just numbers wise, it's really difficult. But so many conditions need to come together. And when Tukur Rinpoche talks about this, he talks about, just everything that needs to be together just to make a cup of tea, right? You have to have a heat source, you have to have water, you have to have a container to heat the water, you have to have the actual tea, all of these things. If even one of those things is missing, you can't have a cup of tea. That's just a cup of tea. So imagine all the complexity that goes into having a precious human life, a life that we can where we have the possibility to devote our life to the Dharma. So who cares? Who cares? So what does it matter? It matters because this life, this precious human life, is what can carry us to ultimate freedom from suffering, okay? For ourselves and for others. Like what is more precious than that? What is more important than that? Right? Being free of suffering altogether. And not only for ourselves, but with this bodhicitta motivation, being able to benefit others, to help others to reach that same state of freedom from suffering once and for all. Like, what else is going to do that? I don't remember the text, but I can't remember which text it's in, but somebody talked about like Do even your parents want that for you? You know, if you have loving parents, like, does that even occur to them? To want freedom from samsara, freedom from suffering for you? No, on the contrary, they typically, out of love, no question, out of love, but they typically give us advice that will just like help us sink our teeth into cyclic existence. You know, you need money, you got to get a good job, you better get married, all these kind of things that sort of just take away, in some sense, not always, okay, but have the potential, let's put it that way, to take our mind completely away from the Dharma. Then this life goes really fast, you know? And those of us who are on the older side are very aware of that, you know? Like, I just think about, just since I've been here, it's 20 years, you know? It doesn't seem like 20 years at all. And I'm sure we've all had that experience, no matter what our age, right? Of just how quickly it goes. So we have this thing that's extremely difficult to get. It's impermanent. We can die at any moment. We don't know when. Okay. And we don't know, because of the law of cause and effect. So here I'm tying these four together. Because of the law of cause and effect, because of karma, we don't know what is in store for us, because we don't know what we've done in the past. We, in quotes, I say in quotes because we have to be careful not to identify too strongly with that, which is a whole nother story. But anyway, just to try to be more simple. Like, we don't know, okay, what actions this particular stream of consciousness that we currently call, you know, Lucy or Rachel or Tess or Palmo or Eileen, okay, we don't know what has been done in the past. So we don't know what's waiting for us in the future when we pass away, after we pass away. Okay. So this might be the only chance we get to progress on this path towards ultimate freedom, for eons. And it might have been the only chance we got for eons behind us, right? We don't know. So it's so short. And it's so precious and it's so important. Like, we have to realize that and bring our mind to that point. It's so easy to forget that, right? It's really so easy just to take everything for granted. Oh, I'm alive today, I'll be alive tomorrow. We don't know that. We don't know that. We'll talk more about that next week. But, you know, this is something that is so extraordinary. And if we can reflect on that, then practice becomes so obvious, and practice becomes something that is much easier to do, like much easier to get ourselves to that point of sitting, you know, and not just sitting, but putting the teachings into practice and into our daily life. That's the other thing about just backing up a little bit to like pretending to practice, right? Pretending to practice is also like not saying like that we're a practitioner, but not really doing anything, not really making an effort to put those teachings into practice. So to, try to be patient with others, for example, or generous, or to see the illusory nature of reality, or whatever it is, it does, as I said, like a million times, right? It doesn't do much good if we just are hearing the teachings or reading about the teachings or whatever, and not making any effort to actually practice them. Like, the practice part is the main thing. In the teachings, it says, like, if you often they'll say something like, I know recently in Words of My Perfect Teacher, I think it was, that said, even if you only understand one word of Dharma, put that into practice. So, like, we don't have to know all of the philosophy and all of the history and all of the schools and all of this, um, difficult intellectual uh, pursuits. We don't have to. I mean, it's great if we know all that, but we don't have to. If we just understand bodhicitta, if we just understand compassion, you know, and do our best. Okay, I understood this thing, bodhicitta. I understood this thing, trying to get enlightened for the benefit of all beings. If we just do that, like that would be tremendous progress if we can put that into practice. It's better to take one thing like that and put it into practice than know a million things and not practice anything, right? So, contemplating the fact that we have a precious human life will definitely help us to practice if we take it seriously. That will be the thing of like, wow, this is my only chance. You know, this could be my only chance for eons in the future. And if I take this seriously and if I, really do my best to understand the teachings and put them into practice, then there's no choice. We have to progress. I mean, that's the way it works. You don't put the teachings into practice and not progress, right? There's no choice. If we are putting them into practice, then we progress. It's just as simple as that, right? So it's that's why it's important. Yeah, that's why it's important to have this contemplation um, of precious human life, and along, of course, with these other three that are going to inspire us to practice. So we have the Dharma. We have this precious human life where we were born in a certain place. Here's another thing: even certain things like, okay, we were born. Um, I think everybody was born in the States, but right now we're in the States. Um, and currently, we have the freedom to practice Buddhism, to study and practice Buddhism. That's impermanent. That is impermanent. And if you see the direction that this current administration is going, it's not that hard to imagine, maybe not in the next 4 years, but it's that sort of, these beginning um, activities, right? That we could get to that point of no more religious freedom in America. Now it's a, whatever they call it, theocracy, right? And not freedom of religion. So it's possible to lose even that, you know? So, like, we should use it while we have it, while we have the freedom to access the teachings. Okay? So we don't want to just to say like, oh, okay, I got it. That's cool. I got this precious human life. I'm good. But I'm not going to do anything I'm not going to do anything with it. That's really dumb, honestly. It's like winning the lottery. Yeah. We won the lottery by having a precious human life. If we don't do something with that, it's like winning the lottery and just not taking our ticket to cash out, right? Oh, I won the lottery. Oh, that's so nice. I won the lottery. And we just put the ticket on a shelf somewhere and forget it. Don't, wait, you won the lottery? Don't you want to go to wherever you have to go to get your money? Nah, I'm tired. I don't feel like it. Oh, it's raining. Like, nobody would ever do that. Oh, it's too cold outside, or I want to, no, I'm binging something on Netflix. I'm not going to go but we do that all the time with our practice. I'm too tired. I don't feel like it. I'm too busy. You know, it's not comfortable. Like, we have to appreciate what we have and use what we have. That's the point of contemplating precious human life. Okay. So, okay. So let's do some meditation now. I'm going to just ask you a question. I'm going to just ring this and tell me if you can hear it, okay? Can't hear that. Okay. All right. So I won't bother with that then. All right. So we're going to begin meditation. So if you're sitting on the floor or on your bed or whatever, just cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. If you're sitting in a chair, you want your feet flat on the floor in front of you. And all the other instructions are the same. So your hand should be either palms down on your knees or your thighs, then or palms up like that, resting in your lap, or with your fingers on top and your thumbs touching like this in your lap, whatever way is most comfortable for you. Arms are relaxed at your side. Back is straight, so your spine is straight. So, pardon me. So the back of your neck is also straight, so your chin's going to be tucked in a little bit. Shoulders should be back a little bit, so throw them back, and you'll see right away it kind of opens up your chest. Mouth is closed but relaxed. Tongue resting on the roof of the mouth. Breathing through the nose. Ideally, the eyes are open, looking down in front a few feet, sort of like a relaxed, lowered gaze. So we hold the body in this position because it helps the mind in meditation. So what we're doing with our mind when we meditate is we are trying to maintain continuous, relaxed awareness of the breath. So just take a moment to notice that sensation right now. So at the end of your nostrils. That's the sensation we're trying to stay with. Meanwhile, the thoughts are going to come and go. This is totally normal. That's what happens as part of the process. We're not trying to block them. We're not trying to push them away. We're not trying to judge them. And we're trying to avoid following after them, being distracted by them. Okay. We just let them rise, dwell, and disappear on their own. Okay. Which they will do if we leave them alone. If we don't leave them alone, which is our kind of normal way of being, right? Thought arises, I don't know, it's cold outside. You might have that thought. What we want to do is just let that go. That'll be disappear on its own, be replaced by another thought, connected or not connected, snow, or totally not connected, oh, I'd like a cup of chai, something like that. What we want to avoid is running after that thought. Okay. So let's take the same example. We're meditating, we're trying to focus on our breath, and the thought arises, it's cold outside. And we go, oh, we're off and running. Oh, it's so cold. Why is it so cold? I can't wait till it gets warmer. Oh my God, when is spring coming? I haven't been this cold in a long time. Oh, the animals, I should put out some food. Da, 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 da. And then like we can go so far, away from our practice that way. It's completely normal to do that. It's totally understandable. This is a practice. This practice is just maintaining, it's a mindfulness practice, right? Mindfulness of breathing, maintaining awareness of the breath. The mind's going to be aware of that for a little bit, and then it's going to run off. Then, as soon as we realize we got distracted, simply bring the mind back, focus again on the breath. And we'll be able to do that for a little while. And then we'll probably get distracted again. As soon as we realize that, bring the mind back to the breath. That's all it is. Okay. Please be careful with your attitude about that, meaning please don't beat yourself up. Okay. This is the process. This is what the mind does. We have a lifetime, at least, even if you don't accept previous lives, we have at least this life of constant distraction. So it's totally understandable that we get distracted. The point is to focus on the fact that we recognized we got distracted. As Zigar Contra Rinpoche says, that's a victory. Oh, cool. I recognize I got distracted. Sweet. Bring the mind back to the breath. Okay. All right. So please begin that now. Just maintaining the posture, bringing awareness to the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. Letting the thoughts come and go as they will while maintaining that awareness. So please begin that now. Now you can begin to count the breaths if you like, counting either every in breath or every out breath up to a total of 10 complete breaths. Counting helps us to realize more quickly when we've gotten distracted because we'll lose count. So let's say that you do lose count, you get to 4 or 5 or whatever, and mind goes running. No big deal. Just bring the mind back, start again at 1. If you get to 10 without losing count, don't let that distract you. Just bring your mind back. Start again at 1. So please begin that now. Okay. And we're going to move to the Tonglen practice or practice of exchange. We're going to do this practice for someone who is neutral to us. So as you know, there's 4 individuals we could work with: someone that we love, someone who's neutral, someone we dislike, and ourselves. So today we're going to do neutral. So neutral means someone that we know, we recognize their face, but we don't know them well. So we don't particularly like them, we don't particularly dislike them. We might have a sort of slight pull in one direction or the other, but we don't have a relationship with them. So this can be, a neighbor, a work colleague, distant relative, this type of category. Okay. And so that's the Pardon me, that's the type of individual we're going to work with today. So I'm going to walk you through the practice. So we're going to begin by, again, just bringing the mind to the breath, being aware of the breath for a moment. And then we're just going to try to just rest the mind. So we're not focusing on anything. At the same time, we're not distracted. Just let the mind settle into its natural state. Do that for one moment. Now imagine in your heart center a bright white light like a shining star, light going in all directions. And just as a reminder for this practice, the posture is the same, but if you want to close your eyes, it's fine. It's a different type of practice. So up to you. So there's that bright white light in your heart center. And then imagine that you are breathing in gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy through all the pores of your body. And all of that smoke dissolves into the white light in your heart center. So there's not a single particle of smoke left. There's only light. Now imagine that you're breathing out white light from your heart center. The light is cool and clear, very bright. Every pore of your body emanating a ray of white light in every direction. Now imagine in front of you someone who fits that category of neutral to you. As I said, neighbor or colleague, whatever. So the first thing we want to do in this case is to recognize the totality of that person, because in this category in particular, we tend to unknowingly, kind of see these people as not real people, like cardboard cutouts, not full human beings. So we just want to consider that, they're not just my neighbor or the checkout person or my doctor or whatever kind of person you chose, my mail carrier. Right? They're not just that. That's not their only role in life, you know? Just like me, this person has a full life, a history, family, and whatever they're going through at present, at work or at home or at school. They have dreams and hopes for the future, just like we do. And just like us, they want to be happy and they want to avoid suffering. But unfortunately, just by virtue of being in cyclic existence, they are suffering. So we consider whatever ways they may be suffering. And because we don't know them, we're likely not going to know exactly what those ways are. And that's okay. We just consider whatever they're going through, whatever they might be going through, let's say. So they might be really sick. Sometimes people can look perfectly fine and be quite ill. They might have other physical problems like chronic pain. They might be suffering mentally or emotionally from mental illness, stress, anxiety. Maybe they're grieving, maybe they're going through a divorce, like we don't know, right? But in any case, we just imagine whatever kind of suffering they might be experiencing takes the form of gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy. It leaves them and it comes to you. And with love and compassion, you breathe that in through all the pores of your body, taking on their suffering. And all of that smoke dissolves into the white light in your heart center until there's not a single particle of smoke left. There's only light. And then you offer this person your own happiness. Consider you're giving it away, your own good fortune, anything at all that they may need to feel better, and adding to that the wish that they attain full enlightenment in this very life. And all of that takes the form of white light, cool, clean, clear, very bright, light in weight. And you breathe out this white light through all the pores of your body. And when the rays of light touch this person, their suffering just completely disappears. And you see on their face and their body language, they feel so relaxed, they feel so relieved, happy and peaceful. And you feel joyful for being able to do this for them. Now we're going to do the same process for all sentient beings. First, imagining them all around us. In front, as many beings as you can conceive of, stretching all the way to the horizon. Same thing to the right, all the way to the horizon. Behind, as many beings as you can imagine, all the way to the horizon. And to the left again, as many beings as you can conceive of, stretching all the way to the horizon. So now you're in the middle of a sea of sentient beings as far as the eye can see in every direction. And the first thing we want to do is kind of the same as what we just did. Just consider that these are real beings with hopes and dreams and histories and suffering, unfortunately. Physical, mental, emotional suffering. And that they're the same as us. So, everybody, even animals, they want to be happy. Even an ant, they want to be happy. They want to avoid suffering. And sadly, they suffer nonetheless. So we're the same, at least in that aspect. So consider that all their suffering, whatever it is, takes that form of gray smoke, heavy in weight, hot, dark, and it leaves all of them and it comes to you. And with so much love and compassion and courage and openness, you breathe that in through all the pores of your body. And all of that smoke dissolves into that bright white light in your heart center until there's not a single particle of smoke left. There's only light. Now you're going to do the same thing. Offer all of these beings your own happiness and good fortune. Consider that you're giving it away, along with anything at all that they may need to feel better. And adding to that, the wish that they attain full and complete enlightenment in this very life. And all of that takes the form of white light, cool in temperature, clean, clear, light in weight. And you emanate out this white light from your heart center through every pore of your body, going in all directions as far as the eye can see. And when these rays of light touch all these beings, each individually, their suffering just completely lifts off of them and disappears like fog in the morning sun. And they feel a tremendous sense of relief, peace, and joy. And you feel joyful for being able to do this for them. Now you let go of the visualization altogether. Gently bring the mind back to the breath, using the breath to bring and keep the mind in the present moment, here and now. So if you're on, we're going to do the closing prayers now. If you're on YouTube, you can look in the description box. You'll find a link to download them there. So we'll start with the prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So these first four prayers we're going to say just in Tibetan. And this is sort of making the wish or aspirations that the teachers live a long time so they can continue to help us and all beings towards freedom. Kanri wawe kowe shinkan su pentande wa manu tuwene senre si wanton singyam so ye shape kya ga ba tu tengyur shi. Now for Jigme Khensen Rinpoche. Om Swasti Jigme Kempe Kalon Yamparu Lungkap Sechen Susen Dawa Nidru Dun Sanam Ke Nobu Cho Seche Gawe Shakin Dasu So. Then Pema Wandering Bishe. Om Swasti Tsela Gyamso Chinlap Tinjune Lansin Taksi Gyurju Pemawa Samsun Nadre Gyabo Tatene Lapchantan De Shetan Tage Sho. Then for the teachers in general. Lama Kumbam Sampo Sowadep Chuduku Se Riwa Sowadep Pine Tashinge Ba Sowadep Lama Dandre Wa Me Pa Chingi Lo. Now on the next page, we'll dedicate the merit to benefit all beings and to seal this virtuous act so it can't be destroyed. This first prayer we read once in English, once in Tibetan, the remaining three just in English, and then we say the 100-syllable mantra, which purifies any mistakes. We just say that one time. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. Sunanti tamche sepani tone ne pedranam tamche shing egana chi palon chupai sipe sole doa doa sho. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Ever absorbed in the display of divine forms and primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception in the state of divinities, mantras, and dharmakaya, may I, inseparable from the practice of the profound and secret great yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of one taste. Om Bhadra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Bhadra Sattva Denopa Tishta Drito Me Bhava Sutokayo Me Bhava Supokayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Soastiri Me Prayatsa Soakama Sutsa Me Chitam Shriyam Uruhum ha 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 ho bhagavan savatata gata vajrama me munsa vajriba maha samaya sattva. Okay. So, just want to say thank you, everybody, for joining me this morning. If you are on Zoom and if you have a few minutes, I'm going to ask you just to hold on for a second because I want to ask you some questions, but I'm going to stop the live stream. So, bye, everybody on YouTube. Thank you.